Okay, this selection from Language of the Heart is taken from page 315, an article Bill wrote in 1960 entitled Freedom Under God. The choice is ours. This article really covers the 12 traditions, but the first part of it is entirely appropriate to recovery across the board and the steps and our spiritual way of life. Here's what it says. In its deeper sense, AA is a quest for freedom, freedom under God. Of course, the immediate object of our quest is sobriety, freedom from alcohol and all its baleful consequences. Without this freedom, we have nothing at all. Paradoxically, though, we can achieve no liberation from the alcohol obsession until we become willing to deal with those character defects which have landed us in that helpless condition. Gosh, I wish more people could understand that. We can achieve no liberation from the alcohol obsession until we become willing to deal with those character defects which have landed us in that helpless condition. Even to gain sobriety only, we must attain some freedom from fear, anger, and pride, from rebellion and self-righteousness, from laziness and irresponsibility, from foolish rationalization and outright dishonesty, from wrong dependencies and destructive power driving. If you ever wanted a complete list of defects, you just found it. Page 315, Language of the Heart. In this freedom quest, we are always given three choices. A rebellious refusal to work upon our glaring defects can be a ticket to destruction. Or for a time, we may stay sober with a minimum of self-improvement and settle ourselves into a comfortable but often dangerous mediocrity. And that almost seems to be the norm now. Or we can continuously try hard for those sterling qualities which can add up to greatness of spirit and action, true and lasting freedom under God, the freedom to find and do His will. Now remember that in our big book, we are told in essence that it is our heritage, it is God's will for us, that we be happy, that we be joyous, and that we be free. But it's quite clear that this does not come about by accident or by wishing for it. It's absolutely necessary that we work for it. For most of us, this last choice is really ours. We must never be blinded by the futile philosophy that we are just the hapless victims of our inheritance, our life experience, and our surroundings, that these are the sole forces that make our decisions for us. And unfortunately, again, so much of the human solution focuses on what has happened to us in the past, dysfunctional families, the harm that others have done, our heritage, our families, our race, creed, color, education or lack thereof, all of those environmental and hereditary factors which the human solution loves to utilize as the reason for us being drunkards. And here we find that that is not so. And even if it is so, it doesn't matter because we found a solution. Regardless of what the cause is, we found a solution. The big book tells us that our problems are our own making. that they arise out of ourselves, that we are the authors of our own misery, that God didn't do it. The moment we stop blaming others, we stop blaming accidents of birth, we stop blaming all of those things which rationally seem to be the cause of our drunkenness, the moment we put those aside and accept the responsibility for our own lives and accept the responsibility to live a spiritual way of life and to do those things necessary to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God, that's when we recover. This is not the road to freedom. We have to believe that we can really choose. Now this goes right to the heart of matter. Remember how easy it would be when we read chapter 4 and it tells us that lack of power, that's our dilemma. We would like to believe that therefore we're not only powerless over our thinking or over the external life to which we've been subjected, but we're also powerless over our thinking, and that's not true. I'm sorry. We're also powerless over our actions. We are powerless over our thinking, but we've never been powerless over our actions except in those times when we were too drunk or high to know what we were doing. We have deliberately taken wrong action. We have deliberately taken the road which was based upon self. We made decisions based on self, which later put us in the position to be hurt. We're not powerless over our actions. If we were, we'd never make it in here. We would never be able to take the right action necessary to recover, would we? We are powerless over our thinking. And we are powerless over the obsession and compulsion to drink alcohol. And there's nothing we can do about the fact that our bodies do not tolerate alcohol. We can't change those things. But this is not the road to freedom. We have to believe we can really choose. Similarly, our whole society and every group in it will constantly face these identical decisions. Shall we settle for destruction? Shall we try only for a temporary comforts of complacent mediocrity? Or shall we consistently face the disciplines, make the sacrifices, and endure the discomforts that will qualify us to walk the path that invariably leads toward true greatness of spirit and action? That's the challenge. And many of us face it in more critical ways, more painful ways than others. But nevertheless, it's still the same challenge. Are we willing to go on? Are we willing to choose greatness? Are we willing to choose making the decisions, facing the difficulties, making the sacrifices, and making the disciplined choices in order to achieve sobriety and spiritual growth and the greatness that comes with it? That's for us to choose. And every time we see ourselves willing to settle, willing to take the easier, softer way, willing to half measure it, we need to pull ourselves up short and say, whoa, where are we going? What do we want here? Ultimately, it comes down to this. If it is to be, it's up to me. I have to make the choices. I have to take the action. And the big book has promised us that when we do that, it will all work out fine, and it will. We'll get to a place where God will give us everything we need. But first we have to take the action to get close to Him, and then we have to take the action to stay close to Him and perform His work well. And the book tells us that if we do that, He will give us everything we need. Not at all necessarily what we want, but what we need. This is the time then in this meeting where we share with each other on the subjects that we've read about. Anything which you wish to bring up which will aid in recovery, which is apropos to our recovery, to God, to the Big Book, to spirituality. Anything that you feel fits into this, your own experience or the way you feel about things, or any questions you might have. We don't have any rules in this meeting. You share when the Spirit moves you. Share as long as you want. Share as often as you want. All we want to do is to help each other here to grow spiritually, to make this a memorable meeting. Who would like to start, please?
As you were reading the part about the character defects, I was just thinking about how a lot of those still apply to me. I've worked really my first 5 steps, I guess. And 6 and 7, I don't know if you can, I heard that you kind of have to continuously keep working those, that you can't work them at once. I mean, I made a list and I prayed, but whether or not all those defects are going away, maybe they are, and I just haven't noticed it. Some of them have gotten better, and I just haven't paid attention to it. And just lately, I've been just feeling like really some like deep, very deep senses of loneliness, and just very deep loneliness. I'm not sure if it's, I don't know. I still find myself having relationship problems in the fact that I'm afraid to form relationships with people, like friendships and stuff. When I go to meetings, I find myself still being on kind of like the outskirts, looking in. I have people that I'm acquainted with, but not a lot of people that I make a lot of phone calls to and talk to on a daily basis and whatnot. And my sponsor's probably the only person I talk to more than anything. I live in a treatment center is where I'm doing my 3/4 way stay. So, and a lot of the people there I really don't want to talk to because they're just like in such a different space than I am. And I don't know. I'm not like withdrawn or anything like that. It's like I want to reach out and try to help them too, because I've learned so much since I've been coming to these meetings, the big book studies and everything, and a lot of times they don't want to listen, they don't want to hear that stuff. And I get a little frustrated with that, and then I go to meetings, and then I actually do, I withdraw. I think I withdraw. And I listen and pay attention, but when it comes to the forming relationships with people, it's just hard. I find that very hard. And I'm not, I really think the steps are going to help me, but there's always that reservation that maybe they can't. It's not a reservation to go back out and drink. It's just, are these steps really going to do what they say? And like you said, it's based on the amount of work that I put into it. And I know that, some days I put a lot of work into it, and other days I kind of like go to bed without writing my prayer out or something, or I just, I don't know, I just run off and do something that I know I shouldn't do, and I do it anyway. And I know it's going to hurt me in the long run, but I still do it anyway. And I have no desire to drink or drug or anything. I have more of a desire just to like go hide under a rock somewhere and like not be seen or something. I don't know what it is, it's just this deep loneliness or whatever it is, like I feel that I'm not liking myself the way I should, maybe it's just gonna take a lot more work for me to get to where I need to be, because, you know, I was telling someone I told myself the same messed up lies for so long that I actually believed them, you know? And it's probably gonna take a lot for me to erase my brain and start over again from scratch, you know, or work with what I have and try to improve on it. Anyway, I'm glad I came to the meeting tonight. I actually tried to come to the earlier meeting, but there was a traffic jam on I-95, so I didn't make it up here. Turned around, but this is pretty good. So this is my first time coming to a Language of the Heart meeting. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Rick. Anybody else having difficulty forming relationships or making commitments or becoming vulnerable to others? Now that you've raised your hands, would you like to share about it? Doc, and then Terry.
Yeah, that's my default, things I haven't learned, don't know how to change it, powerless over it, and keep seemingly falling into the same rut, time after time after time. And that's the major reason why I'm here. It's ruined a good part of my life. Young adult and middle-aged adult life, and continues to do so, of which I seemingly am powerless over it and don't know how to do anything about it, but yearn to do a lot about it, but don't know how. And know that if I were to attempt to do things, I tend to make the same mistakes over and over. And being a sensitive Pisces, etc., know that I can get into things much easier than I can get out of things without a whole lot of heartbreak, and then wonder what all the dilemma was about, and then all I know that there's a lot of turmoil for which I didn't mean to cause, but don't seem how to just, if you will, go with the flow and let things happen. Probably a lot of good things would have been able to have happened over the years, but I was just so fearful of letting them happen that they didn't. And it's a truly no-win situation, and it's terrible.
You bet it is. You find it difficult to trust people?
Absolutely. But you know, and I was thinking about things to bring up, such as, isn't it so difficult right now to think about doing things where, okay, our president who was, I did not have sex with that woman, okay? And so we're being led by leaders who are lying, and we don't know what's still going on with that uranium in Iraq, whether we're being led into a war with people who are lying. And you can't go down to your darn automotive person and get your darn car fixed without being lied to. They're doing all these things, you take it back and the same thing is still happening. So everybody's giving you the once over, and you're getting screwed by everybody, regardless of telling you that they're not lying to you. I had it just yesterday with an attorney, and you get a contract that's diametrically opposed to what he just said, for God's sakes. And I spoke to him myself.
The only president who didn't lie was George Washington. I cannot tell a lie. I cut down the cherry tree.
Well, that's because he lived in my hometown there up in Jersey for a couple of years, in Morristown. He was a good old boy. But so with all that going on and not being able to trust anybody else, 50% of marriages ending in divorce, etc., you got to say to yourself, what the heck really is going on around here? And so for somebody like me who is distrustful to begin with, and a lot of that comes from myself, honestly, in the very beginning, of being unable to really trust what it was that I wanted in the beginning, and distrusting my own reality of the way that I grew up,
Yeah.
and have taken it into my adult years. And if you don't trust your own reality, then it's very difficult when you don't have all the answers in front of you, because I distrusted it when I did have the answers in front of me, I was living there. Then that makes it very hard to not know, and so you're always reality testing, and that's enough to drive anybody away. And then you distrust what you think that you see, because you can't trust it. I mean, it really starts to warp on you, and then it's, oh, to hell with it, it's not worth it. and then you run.
Yeah, what you need is find another person who also doesn't trust. Then you got a relationship of no trust.
Then it's
And then the distrust cancels everything out, you'll be just fine.
But,
You never have to make any commitments. See?
Yay.
Very sad though.
I'm sorry, I don't mean, I know it's a dilemma. But with us, trust and faith begin with God, not with people. Now, if you stop to think about it, you're afraid that somebody's going to desert you, or is going to abandon you, or is going to harm you in some way. You're carrying that fear around, and you claim to be a person of faith. No, no, no. You're saying, God, I don't trust you. When you trust God, you let God bring the people in your life that belong there, and you quit worrying about it. Then you'll be just fine. That's the way it really works. It takes a while to get there. Be patient, Doc. You're making good progress. One of these days you're going to jump up and say, God, I no longer am going to distrust you. I know that you have my best interests in heart. And that way I can make myself vulnerable and not be afraid about it.
We're still in the batter's box.
It will happen. It will happen because fear is canceled out as your faith grows. So all of us have a primary purpose here of doing all those things necessary for our faith to grow stronger and stronger. Ultimately, that's the answer. Terry, I didn't mean to usurp your time, son. You can have all the time you want.
No, you just said everything that I wanted to say.
Oh, okay.
My name is Terry and I'm out.
Hey, Terry.
But Jim, you've been teaching me about the fear. And I had to take a good look at it. Fear of abandonment because of my past. My mother was murdered when I was a young child. Fear of my actions because I was so dishonest in my marriage that it ended. And just not trusting people because I couldn't trust myself. I'm learning, and believe it or not, I really couldn't trust God at one point because I didn't really want Him to give me what He wanted to give me. I wanted what I wanted. And I'm learning to change that. And this young lady hit it right on the nose. I've been taught that I have to change in this program. And I would rather sit at home than to come and be around people. But the loneliness got so bad. And I'm sober. The pain was so bad of staying at home that what did I want? The pain of staying at home or the pain of coming here and trying to trust some people? One thing I did last night, I went out with a group of people here and just to go to dinner. And that was something new for me because I would rather go to dinner with a female or stay at home. I wouldn't want to go out with the guys because I'm just not a guy kind of person. But there's a lot of good guys in this program that have a lot to offer. And Tom is one of them because he sees through the fear and recognize that. But like he was sharing, I would rather just be alone and isolate. But that's not my purpose in life, number one. And that's just so uncomfortable. And also I stay at a halfway house, which I'm getting ready to move from there, and it's a great thing. And there's so many people there that might not want what I have, or I have to share. And so a lot of times I spend time by myself. But then that's my thinking, my pride thinking that they don't want what I have. How do I know unless I sit down and talk to them? And it's just a lot of trust issues that I have to work through. And I make so many mistakes that I can't really trust myself most of the time. But I wanted to show you, I gave you my phone number, and we cannot trust each other until we trust each other.
You guys ought to get together.
Yeah, really. Hey, that might be a
Yeah.
guy thing, you never know, you know what I'm saying?
Guys.
Since you don't trust each other, you'll never make any commitments or expose yourself in any way, so you won't be vulnerable, will you?
We'll call each other Mason. But
That way you can be good friends.
what I wanted to say is that, thank God that he shared that, because I don't feel alone, feeling that I'm unique, because he's had the same, I can identify with the fears that he had. And the other thing I wanted to share is that I worked the fourth step, and I don't know if this is true or not, but my sponsors told me that my fears would go away, but they haven't went away. So I wonder if I'm doing something wrong, or that I didn't do it complete enough, or that's just normal. So,
Is that a question?
yeah, that was a question.
Well, why don't you do some writing about it? Bring me what you write, and then I can tell you. Write the whole thing down. We can figure it out. Miss Marilyn.
Hi, I'm Marilyn, I'm an alcoholic. Hi. The only defect I see here that I can't figure out where it would fit in is self-pity is not in that list, but I think that is a great list, I think. Especially the wrong dependencies. Like whenever I see that, because I always think wrong dependencies are the cause of my pain and fear, like it says here. But anyway, in a way, I think it's really, when I see something like this, I realize that my alcoholism is really a gift, because it forces me to want to strive for the third one, in order to stay away, to have the liberation from alcohol. I don't know if I didn't have that alcohol thing hanging over my head, if I'd ever want to gain the third thing, because of all the work that it takes. Because I just spent, last week, I wasn't here on Saturday because I spent a couple days up in Philadelphia. My husband's grandson got married, and so I was with his kids, grandkids, great-grandkids. And we're going to be married 18 years this year. And I go up there, he goes up almost every year, and I go up almost every other year, something like that. I don't know. But I've seen these people for 18 years. And they're like really cold to me. They've always been. So I decided to say something this time. Like, you know, how long do I got to be married before you people treat me like I'm family? And she goes, and his daughter goes, well, you know, Marilyn, we hardly ever see you and stuff. And I go, you know, that's crazy, man. Because I hardly ever see my relatives. I love them. And she's like, well, you know, my father left us when we were little kids, and we have a big resentment, and it's nothing personal to you, but you're kind of married to him, so you just kind of get the resentment kind of thrown on you. I go, well, I'm giving you guys nothing but love. I love you guys. Why can't you love me? You know, why do you have to connect me to him? It was like this big ugly thing. But it made me realize that they want to take this like the way that they were brought up, they want to take that like an excuse for the rest of their lives and to be mean to me and everything like that. So then I said to him, my brother, he's 50 years old. And almost every time I talk to him, I have to hear about the bad things my mother did to him. I said, you're 50 years old, like, you know, maybe grow up or something, you know. Maybe you have some kind of a choice how to live your life. But then I realized that none of these people do have a choice, because none of them have God. And these character defects are so ingrained with them, only God can remove them, and they're not asking God, so none of them really do have a choice. I just think like, you know, like, get God, ask God to remove them, as if that's like, they're not doing this. And the only reason I'm doing it is because I have this alcohol thing hanging over my head. You know, I don't know. So, you know, in a way, I'm really grateful that I'm forced into wanting to grow spiritually, because they're all like miserable. They're all like miserable with all these resentments and anger. And then they want to put it on poor me.
Go
play great grandma, great grandma. And, like, Marilyn or. So anyway, so it's just a lot of ugly stuff, because these people, I don't know. Character defects, everybody's got them, but, at least we have a way to get rid of them, and other people are clueless to any kind of choices, like it says about the choices there. They don't really have them. So we're lucky they have those choices. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. If you really want to stop being lonely, start having people come into your life who should be there. The one thing you have to stop doing immediately is run around and self-pity.
Right.
Self-pity is the worst aspect of self. It not only destroys us, it destroys our relationships, destroys any possibility relationship. Who the hell wants to be with you when all you're doing is crying, moaning, bitching, and complaining? You wander around in self-pity, you're guaranteeing yourself no reasonable, healthy relationships with anybody except somebody else who's as sick as you are, and the two of you can sit there and complain to each other. You used to do that in the bars.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you how bad off I am,
Right.
I heard what you said, sort of, but I want you to listen to my sad story. We don't do that anymore. You want people to care about you, you want them to want to be with you, you want to open up the doors to relationships. Get rid of the damn self-pity and do it now. It simply destroys any chance we have of people wanting to be with us or close to us. And it destroys us at the same time. Probably the worst aspect of self there is. Who's next?
For me, this program to this point is it's a program of proactivity. Whereas, yeah, you have to hand your will and your life over, or you at least be willing to hand your will and your life over to God. But you have to do the work. No one's going to do the work for you. In my case, anyway, I have to go out there. I have to get a job. I have to pay my bills. I have to start doing the next right thing to get my life back in order. If I sit back and wait for it to happen, and wait for God to do it for me, it's not going to happen. So you got to, look at the character defects and you have to work on them to improve on them. And for me, it's just doing the next right thing, and it's small steps. Like this program for me right now, as I see it, at my point, is a process. And it's a lengthy process. The gentleman that chaired tonight that had 30-some years sobriety, and he said every year it gets better, At this point, I take a look at it and I'm happy where I am, but I also know that I have to keep taking those next right steps, doing the next right thing to grow in my program. So that's where I am right now. Thanks for letting me hear.
Good. Thanks for sharing it. We're glad you're here, man. Who's next?
I don't know, man. I just decided to share. I guess I like what we read tonight as far as the character defects. I have pretty much all of them is what I do with them. I don't have any fear anymore. I don't have anger. I did have pride. I don't have self-righteousness like I used to. And it's all through putting in the work and putting action into the program. But I was hearing about the relationship thing, and I caught myself a few times being that I was in a very dysfunctional relationship and was with my partner for 7 days and 24 hours, and there was no breathing space, and then got out of it. It's almost normal that you kind of miss that because you had someone there. And but today, and the results of that, of the withdrawals, I wouldn't trade what I have today, because ultimately my relationship with God is it's the best relationship I can have in life. And he fills me every time. And he fills me, I might catch myself maybe like tonight going, I'd like to go out, I'd like to do something, I'd like to go meet people. And then I thought, no, well, let me go to the meeting, and after language of the heart, I'm going to really want to go home and meditate and spend time with God. And that's how it's been for me. And it's nice, and I think it's more of an advantage to not be in a relationship right now, because I get to spend time with someone who's gives me unconditional love, who's going to help me grow, and I'm not distracted, and it's going to allow me to focus on the purpose of why I'm here in life, you know, and that's to become a better person and work a program and pass it along to a newcomer and have them experience the joy that I've experienced so far. And there is so much choices in life, you know, my sister and her kids and my brother-in-law, they came in the house, and it was so nice to have the family laughing and joking. There was so much life in this little apartment that I live in. And I dropped them off in the biggest ship in the world with an ice skating rink in it. And they're going to spend 7 days in it, and I'm thinking, okay, this is something to look forward to, you know. When I dropped them off, I wanted to sneak into their suitcase, you know. I was like, have a good time for me, you know. And so these are the things that I'm excited about, you know. I can do this today. I can work, I can spend time with God, work to help others, and look forward to taking a vacation. I didn't have these options when I was using. You know, I was in a hospital robe, barely walking in South County. Couldn't talk because they just pulled a tube out of my mouth. I didn't have a choice then. And you know, today in Miami, we stopped in a really bad neighborhood to get gas, me and my girlfriend. And I saw this guy standing in front of a gas station who was literally 90 pounds, and it was really sad. You know, I was looking like that's what this disease does, you know. So I have a lot of gratitude. Thanks.
Thanks for sharing.
Is that it?
Yes. Why am I talking so
Oh,
much?
okay. Thank you, Linda. Who's next now?
Yeah, everybody that shared today about relationships with people and like the way the world is today, it made me like want to cry, because I was like, that's me, I know. And then I'm like, why am I so emotional? I'm like, yeah, then my anniversary is coming up in like 10 days or something. So a couple of days ago, my sponsor called up and was like, so, feeling squirrely yet? Is anything happening yet? So I guess that's why I don't think it would have made me that emotional normally. But yeah, that's you know, with me, it's taken this long and doing the steps to realize that like I do these like things to get out of having like deep relationships with people. Like I dodge it and dart it, like it's like the Matrix, you know, like I just kind of like make like really shallow, you know, jump around a lot, and you know, lately I've noticed that about myself, and I get exhausted from like having contact with so many people, and I really looked at that and wanted to make the friendships that have come into my life, like people that I didn't seek out and that were put in my life, to let them in and devote more time to them, I guess. And I've been I haven't been as tired lately. I haven't been as exhausted. I get really energized. Which I have those fears. You know, like I'm a child from divorce, child of an alcoholic. You know, my mom is a black belt Al-Anon, like we talk about, and you know, so I've been through it. And I'm like, you know, that's what happens in relationships. You know, you have to go to a 12-step program either way. So it's not worth it, you know. But I've been sitting in meetings since I was like 5 years old in one way or another, and I don't know. It's dependence on the wrong things. I'm scared of that a lot. But that was me. Maybe I'm fine right now.
You know, there's a little rule, and it always works. If you have a relationship with somebody, a love relationship, and if the two of you agree that you shall be together only so long as both of you want to be there. If one wishes to go, the other will release with love. You do that, you'll never break up. You know why? It is that clinging, that dependency, that refusal to allow freedom, which kills the relationship. As soon as I know I can go if I want to, I never want to. It's a paradox. If you want something to last, be willing to let it go. The moment you're willing to let her go, she'll be there. We have to both mean it, but if we do, it really works. Just that we have so many paradoxes that we have to learn in here, and that's one of them. You can't have anything you want too much. Even if you get it, it'll turn to ashes in your mouth. Our relationships in the past have all been things that we forced to happen. And there was nothing but dishonesty and selfishness involved. That's what we find out when we do our sex inventory. All that has to change. As soon as we allow God to bring the people into our lives who belong there, we get a whole different type of relationships. We get relationships with people who are ready and we're ready, and God brings us together. Then it's wonderful. It takes patience. You have to wait for it sometimes. We have to deal with ourselves, make ourselves ready for that. And if it doesn't happen for a while, and you run around pitying yourself and crying your beer all the time, shame on you. Remember in the 4-step prayer, you offered yourself to God to do with you and to build with you as He wants, not as you want. Live up to that. In the meantime, thank God for pumping air every morning. Thank God for the roof over your head. Thank God for the food in your belly and the friends that you have and the opportunity for service that He gives you. Anytime that you look at your day and you realize that you are not filled with gratitude, you got to know that you are not spiritually fit. The greatest test of gratitude, of spiritual fitness, is gratitude. So we have every way to test ourselves if we wish to. And we got to do something about it. One other thing we need to know, every time we feel bad without any exception at all, there's a fear involved. We have to stop and say, all right, dummy, what are you afraid of now? Find out what it is, because there will always be a fear. Fear is our enemy. It's the only enemy we have. It's the killer. Pride is the godfather of all of our defects. Fear is the hitman that pride sends forth to kill us. And when we understand that, we will know what President Roosevelt meant. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. All these are things that we learn in here, and we learn not only to understand them and to be aware of them, but also we learn how to deal with them with spiritual solutions. We have to learn those solutions. We have to use them. Then it works. You can literally have a happy, joyous, and free life if that's what you want. All right. We're going to say the Lord's Prayer together and call it a night. Let this circle represent the unity of our fellowship. Have a moment of silence for those who are still suffering. And we'll say the Lord's Prayer together. Remind you again, in our group, we don't say anything after we say amen. Thank you, Lord's Prayer. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
See you next week, God willing.